My wife cheated with multiple men. My brutal revenge left her life in shambles. You won't believe what happened next. Okay, throw away for obvious reasons. I'm Mark, 38M, she's Sarah, 36F. We've been married for 12 years, together for 15. High school sweethearts, built everything together from scratch. 2 kids, a house, the whole suburban dream. Or so I thought. I always thought we had a rock-solid marriage. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing we couldn't talk through. We were each other's best friends, partners in crime, everything. Or at least, that's what I believed with every fiber of my being. Lately, though, things have been off. Like, really off. It started subtly, maybe 6 months ago. She started working longer hours, which was weird because her job is pretty standard 9 to 5, not usually demanding overtime. She'd come home late, smelling faintly of some fancy perfume I didn't recognize, not her usual scent. When I'd ask, she'd brush it off, say she was just stressed and needed space. Her phone became glued to her hand, face down, constantly buzzing. If I even glanced at it, she'd snatch it away like I was trying to steal state secrets. I tried to be understanding. I figured maybe it was work stress, or perhaps the kids were getting to her more than usual. I offered to help more around the house, take the kids for longer, plan a date night, anything to ease the tension. But she'd just snap at me, call me needy or smothering. She started picking fights over the most trivial things, like the way I loaded the dishwasher or left my socks on the floor. It was like living with a completely different person, one who actively resented my presence. The intimacy dried up completely, too. Every attempt was met with a headache, or too tired, or not in the mood. It's been months since we even properly kissed, let alone anything else. The house, which used to be filled with laughter and easy conversation, felt like a pressure cooker. I was walking on eggshells, constantly trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, how I could fix us. I thought maybe I was just imagining things, or being overly sensitive. God, I wish I was. I started feeling this pit in my stomach, you know. That gnawing feeling that something fundamental was wrong. It wasn't just the late nights or the phone, it was her whole demeanor. She was always on edge, dismissive. When I tried to talk about it, really talk, she'd get defensive, turn it around on me. You're suffocating me, Mark, she'd yell. Can't a woman have her own life without you scrutinizing every move? She even accused me of being paranoid, of imagining things, because I was insecure. It made me question my own sanity, honestly. I'd go over everything in my head, trying to pinpoint where I'd gone wrong. Was I not attentive enough? Too attentive? Had I gained weight? Lost my spark? It was an emotional hell, constantly feeling like I was the problem. Then, about a month ago, a new perfume started showing up. Not on her, but in her car. A small, fancy bottle on the passenger seat, almost hidden under a receipt. It smelled completely different from the one she occasionally wore home. This was bolder, muskier, definitely not something she'd usually pick. When I asked her about it, she just rolled her eyes. Oh, that? One of the girls from work left it in my car after we carpooled to a happy hour. Forgot to give it back. I frowned. Sarah never carpooled. She hated it. Since when do you carpool? I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Jesus, Mark, do I need to clear my entire social life with you now? She snapped, grabbing the bottle and tossing it into her purse with unnecessary force. It's not a big deal. The way she reacted, the way she always reacted when I touched on anything even remotely personal about her recent activities, just screamed guilty to me. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. This was a pattern. And the pit in my stomach was starting to feel like a black hole. The real gut punch came last Tuesday. She'd told me she was going out for girls' night again, which was practically a weekly occurrence now. I was home with the kids, doing homework, making dinner, the usual dad stuff. Around 9 p.m., I got a text from my sister, completely out of the blue. It was a photo. A photo of Sarah, laughing, arm in arm with some guy I'd never seen before, walking into a fancy restaurant downtown. The kind of place we used to go for anniversaries, not girls' night. My sister had just happened to be driving by and thought, "Oh, look, it's Sarah. But who's that guy?" and snapped a quick pic for me. She meant well, she really did. She thought maybe it was a colleague, or a friend's husband. She had no idea. My blood ran cold. My stomach dropped through the floorboards. The man in the picture was tall, silver-haired, definitely older than us, and looked like he'd just stepped out of a GQ magazine. Sarah was practically glowing, looking happier than I'd seen her in months, maybe years. The way she was leaning into him, the intimacy in their posture, there was no mistaking it. This wasn't a work colleague. This wasn't a friend. This was a date. My hand started shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I felt a cold wave of nausea wash over me. I tried to breathe, but it felt like someone had punched all the air out of my lungs. My entire world, the one I'd painstakingly built for over a decade, just shattered into a million pieces right there on my kitchen floor. I couldn't look at the picture for long. Every detail, from the way her hair was styled to the dress she was wearing, a dress I'd never seen before, definitely not one she owned, screamed betrayal. It was too much. The image was burned into my brain, a permanent scar. I felt like I was going to throw up. My kids were in the next room, oblivious, and I just stood there, leaning against the counter, trying not to scream. The sheer audacity of it, the blatant lie. My entire life was a lie. I somehow managed to get the kids to bed, my mind a complete blank except for that photo. The betrayal was like a physical blow. When Sarah finally waltzed in around 1 a.m., humming some tune, I was sitting in the dark living room, the picture of her and her paramour displayed on our big screen TV, blown up for maximum impact. She stopped dead in her tracks, the hum dying in her throat. Her face, initially flushed with whatever girls' night excitement she was having, went completely white. What is this?" she stammered, her eyes darting between the screen and me. I didn't say a word. I just pointed to the screen, then to her. She tried to recover, tried to lie. "Mark, it's not what you think. That's my boss, Mr. Henderson. We were just at a work dinner, a team-building thing, and my sister must have seen us and misunderstood." Her voice was wavering, though, and her eyes couldn't meet mine. "We were just talking about a big project, honest. Your sister sent me this picture, Sarah," I said, my voice dangerously low, a calm I didn't feel. "She thought she saw you and a friend's husband. She didn't misunderstand anything. And since when do you carpool to work dinners with Mr. Henderson, whose name, by the way, I've never heard you mention in 12 years of marriage?" She crumpled then, like a house of cards. The bravado evaporated. The excuses died on her lips. She started crying, real, dramatic sobs. "I'm so sorry, Mark. It was a mistake. Just one time. I swear to God, it meant nothing." Her words were tumbling out, desperate and frantic. She lunged for me, trying to grab my hand, but I recoiled as if burned. The smell of that same unfamiliar perfume was strong on her. My stomach lurched. "Please, darling, don't look at me like that. I was lonely, you've been so distant, I needed attention." "Lonely?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "Distant? You're the one who started shutting me out months ago, Sarah. You're the one who called me smothering, who turned down every single attempt I made to reconnect. And this one time. This has been going on for months." The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place, the late nights, the phone, the mysterious perfume, the fights, the sudden disinterest in me. All of it. It wasn't one time. Not even close. It was a calculated, prolonged deception. The sheer audacity of her trying to blame me for her infidelity was infuriating. I just stared at her, feeling a cold, hard knot of rage start to form in my chest. The tears, the excuses, they felt like cheap theater. And I was done watching. The tears and the "it was just one time" line were pure theater, I swear. My blood was boiling, but I tried to stay calm, at least on the surface. I just kept staring at the screen, at her on the screen, happy and carefree with another man. It was like a slow-motion car crash, watching my entire life implode. Then, something inside me just snapped. Not violently, not with yelling, but with a quiet, terrifying clarity. I walked over to our bedroom and she followed, still sniffling, still trying to apologize. "Mark, please. Let me explain," she pleaded, grabbing my arm. I shook her off. I opened her wardrobe, pulled out a suitcase, and started throwing her clothes into it. Not gently, not neatly. Just haphazardly. "What are you doing?" she shrieked, her voice suddenly losing its sorry tone and shifting to outraged. "You can't just kick me out." "Oh, I can," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "And I will." "You want to explain? Explain to the kids why you won't be living here anymore." I picked up her phone, which she'd left on the dresser. I'd never touched her phone without permission. Now, I didn't care. I unlocked it. Her fingerprint ID was still active from when she'd let me use it for something months ago. The first thing I saw was a WhatsApp chat. Not with Mr. Henderson, but with someone named Tiger. And oh, the messages. Dirty pictures, explicit texts, plans for weekend getaways, all dating back months. Not just one guy. Multiple. My sister's picture was just the tip of the iceberg. My vision narrowed. Tiger, Sarah. And look, angel eyes here, I scrolled, my fingers shaking, and, workout buddy. Funny, I thought your workout buddy was Brenda from the gym. Turns out he's also calling you, my sweet temptress. I looked up at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd spent half my life with, the mother of my children, was a stranger. A lying, manipulative, cheating stranger. The anger, which had been a simmering heat, suddenly roared into a full-blown inferno. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a lifestyle. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. The nausea returned, stronger this time. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal. Every touch, every kiss, every "I love you" she'd ever said felt poisoned, a cruel joke. I wanted to scream, to smash something, to just disappear. The pain was so intense it was physical, a gaping wound in my chest. My entire understanding of reality had just been annihilated. The Tiger and Angel Eyes discoveries completely broke me. It wasn't just one affair, it was a whole damn carousel. Each message, each intimate detail I scrolled through, was a fresh stab to the heart. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. The sheer volume of it all, the casual way she discussed secret meetings, the callousness with which she planned her lies to me, it was sickening. She wasn't just cheating, she was leading a parallel life, a life where I was nothing but a convenient cover. She started screaming then, really screaming, probably because I had her phone and she couldn't wrestle it away from me. "Give me that. You have no right. You're invading my privacy." "Privacy?" I roared back, my voice finally breaking. "Privacy? You want privacy? How about honesty? How about respect? How about not treating your husband like a fool for months?" My voice cracked with the pain and rage that had been building for so long. I threw her phone on the bed, not caring if it broke. I just needed it out of my hand. I walked out of the bedroom, leaving her still yelling about privacy. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a beer, twisted the cap off with trembling hands, and chugged half of it down in one gulp. My chest felt like it was going to explode. The emotional impact was catastrophic. It wasn't just anger, it was a profound sense of loss, a grief so deep it felt like a death. The person I thought I knew, the future I thought we had, the foundation of my entire adult life, all gone, vaporized. I leaned against the cold kitchen counter, head in my hands, trying to make sense of the wreckage. How could I have been so blind? So trusting? Every moment, every argument, every excuse she'd ever given me now replayed in my mind, tinted with the ugly color of deceit. Her stress, her long hours, her need for space, all covers for her infidelity. The fact that she was trying to blame me, trying to gaslight me, even after being caught red-handed, was just another layer of cruelty. I felt a cold, hard resolve settling in. This wasn't something to be fixed. This was something to be ended. Brutally. The Sarah I loved was a phantom. The woman standing in my house was a stranger, and a deeply repulsive one at that. The next few days were a blur of intense, raw emotion. One minute I was shaking with anger, wanting to smash everything in sight, the next I was curled in a ball on the couch, sobbing silently as the weight of the betrayal crushed me. I took a few days off work, telling them it was a family emergency, which, in a twisted way, it absolutely was. Sarah was mostly locked in the spare room, occasionally emerging to try and talk, but her talks always revolved around her trying to minimize her actions, blame me, or demand her privacy back. She even started crying about how I had hurt her by looking through her phone. The audacity was truly mind-boggling. The kids were the hardest part. Trying to act normal for them, trying to shield them from the earthquake that had just rocked their parents' world, was excruciating. I'd force a smile, help with homework, read bedtime stories, all while feeling like my guts were being ripped out. Every time Sarah came near them, a surge of protective fury would course through me. How could she have jeopardized their stability, their family, for her selfish indulgences? I started talking to a lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Davies. She listened patiently, taking notes as I recounted the whole sordid tale, showing her the screenshots I'd managed to take of Sarah's phone before she finally changed the passcode. Ms. Davies' expression remained neutral, but I could tell she'd seen it all before. Her advice was clear: document everything, do not engage in arguments, and focus on the kids. She outlined the legal steps, the potential for shared custody, the division of assets. It was all so clinical, so cold, so far removed from the loving marriage I thought I had. The pain, however, slowly started to morph. The initial shock and debilitating sadness began to harden into something colder, more calculating. The grief was still there, a constant dull ache, but it was now laced with a steely resolve. I wasn't just heartbroken anymore, I was furious. And I wasn't going to let her walk away from this unscathed. She'd built this house of cards on lies, and I was going to be the one to knock it down, brick by painful brick. I wanted justice. I wanted her to feel a fraction of the pain she had inflicted on me. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about retribution. And for those of you dealing with similar crap, please, learn from my mistakes. If you see the red flags, don't ignore them. Trust your gut. And for goodness sake, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and have liked this video for more raw, unfiltered relationship stories like this one. You don't want to miss what comes next. My revenge started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Sarah, in her deluded state, still thought she could manipulate her way out of this. She thought I was just sad, maybe angry, and that eventually I'd get over it and things would go back to normal. She even had the gall to suggest we go to therapy to work on our issues, as if my primary issue wasn't her rampant infidelity. It was infuriating. I just nodded, played along, agreed to consider it, all while meticulously plotting my next moves. First, I subtly changed all the passwords for our joint accounts, online utilities, and streaming services. Not the bank accounts yet, that would come later, but all the peripheral stuff. She slowly realized she couldn't access Netflix, or her email on the home computer, or even the Wi-Fi witut asking me for the new password. Each time she asked, I'd give her a vague answer or act confused. Oh, did it change? That's weird. It was small, but it chipped away at her sense of control. Then came the bigger moves. She had a new car, a fancy SUV that was still mostly under finance, with my name as the primary on the loan because my credit was better. I quietly started looking into options to have it repossessed due to financial hardship. My lawyer advised against anything too drastic immediately, but I was exploring. I also found out about a bonus she was expecting from work, a pretty substantial one. I discreetly contacted HR, anonymously asking about the protocol for disclosing financial disputes during a divorce, knowing full well that her company had a strict morality clause for executives, which she was. I didn't explicitly accuse her of anything yet, just inquired about the rules. This was all groundwork, laying the traps. She was still seeing her friends, her various tigers and angel eyes. I knew this because I'd installed a small, untraceable GPS tracker on her car before she even noticed I'd cut off her access to the car's built-in tracking app. She'd leave, thinking she was free and clear, while I watched her movements on a map, confirming her patterns, building a detailed timeline of her deception. Every ping on that map fueled my resolve. The cold rage was a constant companion now, replacing the raw pain with a grim determination. The mask of calm I presented to her was impenetrable, and she was completely oblivious to the storm brewing beneath. I was no longer an emotional wreck, I was an avenging force, and she had no idea what was coming. The first real blow landed when she went to pick up her dry cleaning. Her favorite designer dress, the one she wore on her dates with Mr. Henderson, was gone. Not lost, but returned to the store she'd originally bought it from, citing defects and getting a full refund credited to my personal credit card, which she, naturally, didn't have access to anymore. She called me, furious, demanding to know what I'd done. "What are you talking about, Sarah?" I asked, feigning innocence. "I haven't touched your clothes. My dress. It's gone. The dry cleaner said it was returned." "Did you do this?" she shrieked. "Why would I return your dress?" I scoffed. "Maybe you left it at Mr. Henderson's." The silence on her end was deafening. She hung up abruptly. Small victory, but it felt good. Then came her car. One morning, she went to leave for work, which I knew from my GPS tracker meant a rendezvous with Tiger, and the car wouldn't start. Completely dead. I had quietly, over the past week, disconnected essential wires under the hood, careful not to cause permanent damage, just enough to immobilize it. She called me in a panic, needing a lift. I calmly explained that I had car trouble, too, and was too busy with the kids. She ended up having to call an expensive Uber, missing her illicit meeting. The look on her face when she finally got home, sweaty and stressed, was priceless. My lawyer, Ms. Davies, had finalized some paperwork too. I had instructed her to send a very official, very cold letter to Sarah, outlining my intention to file for divorce on grounds of infidelity, and detailing my plan for sole custody of the children given her negligent and deceitful behavior. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a declaration of war. Sarah received it that afternoon. The ensuing screaming match was epic. She accused me of being a monster, of destroying our family, of being petty and vindictive. "You want petty, Sarah?" I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You haven't seen petty yet. You wanted to play games. Let's play." My heart was racing, but it wasn't fear, it was exhilaration. The game was on. And I was going to win. And for everyone out there who's been lied to, cheated on, and made to feel worthless, this is for you. Remember to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support means the world as I navigate this hell. The next few weeks were a brutal escalation. Sarah, realizing I was serious, started trying to fight back, but she was always a step behind. She tried to withdraw money from our joint account, only to find the limits drastically reduced, thanks to some quick work by my lawyer and me, citing irreconcilable differences, and freezing certain funds. She was enraged, but powerless. My revenge started getting more personal, more targeted. I knew she had a rather colorful past with online dating before we met. She'd always been paranoid about anyone finding out about it, especially her coworkers, as she cultivated this image of being a refined, sophisticated executive. I'd accidentally stumbled upon an old, obscure forum she used to frequent, filled with cringeworthy posts and slightly scandalous photos from her early 20s. I anonymously sent a link to one of her most hated colleagues, the one she always bitched about being gossipy. It spread like wildfire through her office. I heard about the fallout from a mutual friend who still worked there. Apparently, Sarah had a meltdown in the break room. Then came the bigger hit. She had meticulously curated a social media presence, portraying herself as the perfect wife and mother, always posting about our happy family and romantic date nights, all lies, of course. I took some of the explicit screenshots from her phone, the ones with tiger and angel eyes, and, using an anonymous account, sent them to her closest friends and her immediate family. Not publicly, not for the whole world to see, but just to the people whose opinions she valued most. I didn't add any text, just the pictures. Let them connect the dots. The resulting calls and texts she received were a symphony of shock and disgust. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled. I watched, unseen, as her world began to unravel. The look on her face when she realized what I'd done, a mixture of horror, disbelief, and incandescent rage, was exactly what I'd wanted. She started screaming, accusing me, but I just met her gaze with a cold, unwavering stare. "You played a dirty game, Sarah," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "And now you're learning the cost." There was no satisfaction, not really. Just a grim sense of finality. But the constant, throbbing pain in my chest eased, replaced by a strange, hollow calm. This was the only path forward. Her reaction to the leaked photos and the office gossip was exactly what I'd anticipated, a furious, desperate counterattack. She tried to frame me as unstable, a jealous husband who was harassing her. She even threatened to call the police, claiming I was stalking her. I just laughed. I had all the evidence, meticulously documented, thanks to my lawyer's advice. Every text, every screenshot, every GPS ping. And I had a restraining order prepped and ready to go, signed by a judge, detailing her infidelity and potential threat to the children's stability. When she saw the paperwork, her face went from fury to pale terror. But I wasn't done. The financial blow was next. Remember that fancy SUV? Well, I'd been working with the financing company, discreetly presenting a case for fraudulent misrepresentation on the loan application, specifically, that she had exaggerated her income and employment stability during the initial approval process, and that I was now retracting my support as the primary guarantor due to her deceit. It was a stretch, but given the documentation I had, they took it seriously. Her car was repossessed right from our driveway, while she was screaming at the tow truck driver, claiming I was ruining her life. I just stood there, watching, the kid safely inside, shielded from her histrionics. That evening, I also canceled her credit cards, not the joint ones, but the supplemental cards linked to my accounts. She'd been racking up thousands on them, buying designer clothes and expensive dinners, probably for her various affairs. When she tried to pay for groceries and was declined, she finally understood the full scope of her financial isolation. She had no car, limited cash, and her reputation was in tatters. She was trapped, completely reliant on me for everything, exactly as I had been unknowingly reliant on her facade of loyalty for years. The house, once a battleground of lies and accusations, now felt eerily quiet. She was defeated, withdrawn, her venom replaced by a bitter, hollow despair. I didn't feel triumph, not really. Just a profound, aching emptiness. This wasn't joy, it was the quiet, sad sound of a life ending. The woman I married was gone, replaced by a ghost of deceit. And I, too, was a ghost of my former self. This wasn't what I wanted, but it was what she had chosen for us. The brutal reality of it all was overwhelming. I felt a deep weariness settling into my bones. The silence in the house was heavy, suffocating. Sarah was a shell of her former self, rarely leaving the spare room. She barely ate, barely spoke, save for bitter whispers about how I had destroyed her. I let her say it. What else was there to say? My focus had completely shifted to the kids and the practicalities of setting up a new life. I hired a part-time nanny to help with school pickups and after-school activities, ensuring the kids had as much routine and stability as possible. I also started making arrangements for us to move into a smaller place once the divorce was finalized and the house sold. I didn't want to live in this house anymore. Every corner held a memory, now tainted with betrayal. The divorce proceedings were moving forward. Sarah's lawyer tried to argue for spousal support and a larger share of the assets, citing her distress and emotional trauma. My lawyer just calmly presented the mountain of evidence, the GPS data, the screenshots, the detailed financial records of her lavish spending on her various friends, the evidence of her online activities. The judge, a no-nonsense woman, made it clear that Sarah's conduct would weigh heavily against her. There would be no exorbitant spousal support. Custody of the children would be primarily with me, with supervised visitation for Sarah until a consistent, stable environment could be demonstrated on her part. She had effectively forfeited her claim to our shared future, and the court saw it. It wasn't victory that I felt when I heard the judge's preliminary ruling. It was exhaustion. A deep, soul-wearying exhaustion. The adrenaline that had fueled my revenge had finally dissipated, leaving behind a vast emptiness. I looked at Sarah across the courtroom. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her shoulders slumped, her once pristine appearance now disheveled. She looked truly broken. And for a fleeting moment, I almost felt something akin to pity. But then I remembered the months of lies, the emotional torture, the disrespect, the utter disregard for our family. And the pity evaporated, replaced by the cold, hard realization that this was the inevitable consequence of her own choices. I wasn't proud of the lengths I'd gone to, but I also didn't regret them. She had forced my hand. This wasn't revenge for revenge's sake, it was a desperate act of self-preservation, a fight for my own sanity and my children's well-being. And if you're ever in this situation, battling a deceitful partner, remember to protect yourself, gather your evidence, and never let them gaslight you into thinking you're the crazy one. And please, subscribe to this channel and like the video if you want more honest, no-holds-barred advice on navigating the absolute chaos of betrayal. It helps me know these stories are helping others. The decision to move forward was crystal clear, there was no going back. The marriage was dead, incinerated by her lies and my subsequent actions. We were getting divorced, and I would be fighting for full custody of the kids. Sarah eventually accepted the inevitability, albeit with a lot of bitterness. She moved out of the spare room and into a small apartment her parents reluctantly helped her secure, though I knew from casual chatter that even they were deeply disappointed in her. Her attempts to regain her job, or any job for that matter, were proving difficult with her reputation in tatters. The life she'd carefully constructed had crumbled. My focus became solely on rebuilding a stable, loving environment for my children. I started therapy for myself, to process the trauma and the anger, to learn how to trust again. It was a long, painful road, but necessary. I also enrolled the kids in a play therapy group, to help them cope with the upheaval, even though we kept the specifics of Sarah's actions from them, telling them simply that mommy and daddy can't live together anymore. It broke my heart every time they asked if mommy was sad, or if she would come home. I learned to cook better, to manage the household finances entirely, to be both mom and dad. It was hard, exhausting work, but seeing my kids laugh, seeing them slowly adjust, gave me purpose. I sold the house, not for profit, but for closure. Moving out felt like shedding a skin, leaving behind the ghost of a past that had never truly existed. We found a smaller, cozier place, a fresh start. It was terrifying, stepping into the unknown, but also liberating. I occasionally saw Sarah during supervised visitations with the kids. She was gaunt, subdued, a shadow of her former self. The flashy clothes and expensive perfume were gone, replaced by worn jeans and a haunted look. There was no joy in seeing her reduced state, just a dull ache of what could have been. The rage had finally subsided, replaced by a quiet sorrow. This wasn't the life I'd envisioned, but it was the one I had now, and I was determined to make it a good one for my kids. The brutal revenge had served its purpose. It had allowed me to reclaim my life, to stand up for myself, and to protect my children from further deceit. But it left scars, deep ones, that would take a lifetime to heal. Looking back now, months later, I've gained a lot of perspective, even though the healing process is far from over. The initial shock and rage eventually gave way to a deep, profound sadness for the loss of the life I thought I had, the partner I thought I knew. It felt like a death, the death of a dream. But beneath that sadness, a new kind of strength started to emerge. I learned that I am far more resilient than I ever gave myself credit for. I survived betrayal on an epic scale, rebuilt my life from scratch, and most importantly, I kept my kids safe and loved through it all. My biggest regret isn't the revenge itself, because I genuinely believe it was a necessary step to protect myself and my children from further emotional abuse and financial ruin. My regret is how long I ignored the red flags. The gut feeling, the inconsistencies, the gaslighting, I brushed them all aside, rationalizing her behavior, because the alternative was too painful to contemplate. I wanted to believe in the fairy tale, even when it was actively rotting from the inside. So, here's my advice to anyone out there who might be living through something similar. 1. Trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let your partner gaslight you into doubting your own perceptions. 2. Document everything. Every suspicious text, every late-night explanation, every financial discrepancy. You never know when you'll need evidence. 3. Prioritize your mental health. Seek therapy. Talk to trusted friends or family. You can't navigate this alone. The emotional toll is immense. 4. Protect your kids. They are innocent bystanders. Shield them as much as possible, and get them professional support if needed. 5. Seek legal counsel immediately. Don't try to be a hero. Get a good lawyer who specializes in family law. They will be your guide through the legal minefield. 6. Don't be afraid to fight. This isn't about being vindictive, it's about protecting your rights, your assets, and your future. Sometimes, a brutal offense is the best defense. The brutal revenge I enacted wasn't born of cruelty, but of a desperate need to survive and to defend my children. It was a brutal end to a brutal betrayal. I lost a wife, but I gained my sanity back, and a deeper connection with my kids. It's not a happy ending, not in a traditional sense, but it's an honest one. And I'm finally, truly, free. Thanks for letting me share my story, Reddit. Your support, even just in reading this, means a lot. It's been over a year now since Sarah moved out for good, and the divorce was finalized a few months ago. The custody agreement settled mostly in my favor, as predicted, with Sarah having limited, supervised visits. Those visits are still hard. The kids are slowly adjusting, but they still ask questions, and I try my best to answer them truthfully but gently, without tearing down their mother completely. It's a delicate balance. I want them to know the truth of what happened in our family, but not the brutal details that would poison their young minds. My own therapy has been a lifeline. It's helped me peel back the layers of anger and hurt, and really examine what I want for my future. I'm learning to trust myself again, to identify healthy boundaries, and to recognize the difference between genuine love and manipulative control. I've started dipping my toes back into dating, very cautiously. It's strange, nerve-wracking, and sometimes feels impossible to imagine opening myself up to that kind of vulnerability again. But I know I can't let Sarah's actions define my entire future. I deserve happiness, and so do my kids. Financially, things are stable. The sale of the house gave me enough capital to secure a good foundation for me and the kids in our new, smaller home. It's cozy, and it feels like ours, a place built on honesty and new beginnings, not on a crumbling foundation of lies. I've even reconnected with some old friends I'd unintentionally distanced myself from during the tumultuous period of Sarah's deceit. They've been incredibly supportive, a true testament to real friendship. Sarah, from what I hear through the grapevine, is still struggling. Her reputation at work was indeed unsalvageable, and she's had trouble securing stable employment. Her social life is practically non-existent. There's no joy in hearing this, "no, I told you so" moment. Just a quiet resignation. I don't wish her ill, but I also don't wish her well. I just wish she had chosen a different path, one that didn't leave such a trail of destruction in its wake. This whole ordeal has been a painful lesson, but I'm slowly, painstakingly, putting the pieces of my life back together, one day at a time. The scars are permanent, but they're fading, becoming a reminder of resilience rather than just pain.